Say good morning to you once again. Welcome inside the mid-morning buzz here on Classic Radio. Also, we are live via GBN TV. Good morning to those of you via our social media platforms. Welcome to the mid-morning buzz. It's not the usual you will see Officer Troy Paul with us around this time of the morning, but welcome. How are you doing this morning? Representing the traffic department this morning. How are you doing this morning, bro? And happy Independence, happy New Year, everything in between, I should actually say.
Everything in one. Yeah. Just mix everything, one greeting, and maybe you might add Christmas and
well, when that time will come around, we get there. Let's not rush it though.
Good morning. It's a pleasure being on GBN as usual. And as we say, we're into the independence celebration spirit. 50 years, we're going up from here. We're bringing warm greetings from the traffic department, also the Royal Grenada Police Force, and it's a pleasure again. It's a pleasure. And I want to say good morning to all the listeners hearing the song of our voices, both local and in the diaspora.
All right, certainly welcome. Our conversation this morning, we here this morning, we want to talk this morning about, drivers, passengers, the safety. What when you say the safety of drivers and passengers, is it just a general safety in how an individual drive? When we say passengers, is the safety of how a passenger will conduct themselves when they're driving along with a vehicle? When we say driver and pedestrian safety, how would we be speaking of that?
Yeah, so when you talk about driver safety, we're talking everything in relation to a driver, especially because a driver, when you use the term driver, somebody must be in the process, driving or in the process of maneuvering a vehicle.
Okay.
And we want to take into consideration everything before you even move that vehicle to drive and you getting to your destination safely. Everything surrounding that. So we're going to speak generally. And when we talk pedestrian safety, because a pedestrian is someone who uses a road network. Right. So everything that is supposed to do, we'll touch on we will not be able to touch on everything, yes, but as much as we can, and during the time that we are given. We can talk a lot about road safety, a lot about driver safety, a lot about pedestrian safety, and we can go on and on and on.
I mean, safety is crucial in all aspects of how you take it. I mean, if we were to start on the driver, what are some key tips you would like to throw to drivers, especially in terms of the safety precaution that they should adhere to as driving along on the nation's road?
Yes, so I just want to emphasize the importance of safety for drivers. It is very, very, very paramount, and for us at the traffic department, because it says a lot in terms of our statistics that we're having today. And just to a little bit of statistics that we had over the weekend period, we had 31 reported accidents
last weekend.
Yes, that is only one weekend. Saturday alone we had 19 accidents Saturday and 4 serious accidents. We see one at River Antoine Public Road. We had one in Calais. We had one in Corin, St. David, and we also had one in the St. John's area, where we had 11 persons being injured as a result of those accidents over the weekend period. One was of a serious nature, but the person is in stable condition. But just want to that piece of statistics to emphasize the importance of safety. And I will start with, for drivers, that even before you move your vehicle or you start your ignition, carry out a safety or a function check on your vehicle. So check your tires, check the surroundings of your vehicle, make sure your tires are properly inflated, and check, just as how you make sure that your vehicle have gas to get to your destination. Check your oils and all these things before leaving home. It is very, very important.
All what is just necessary for the functioning of your vehicle.
Of course, just as before a plane moves off, they has to do some checks. And what is important, adding to that, is make sure that you're keeping with your regular servicing schedule. I know most of the new vehicles, they will get a service date for them, but just with the older vehicles, also do your checks as well. Some depending on your mileage, and others every 3 months and so forth. You check your service vehicle, and that is very, very important, because you as a driver, there are certain things that you will miss but your mechanic will pick that up.
And it's also important to have someone qualified in terms of
certified to do
qualified
that,
and certified.
Because what we're seeing, a lot of the roadside mechanics, a lot of the persons, they can, as I always say, they can change parts.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong. You take out a bolt, you put back in a bolt, and so forth. But then you know that the persons who are specialized or who are certified in these things will know what to look for and how to do it. And they will see signs of certain things, and they will tell you that certain things are deteriorating, that you need to check it out, etc. But when you go by somebody who changes parts, all they will do for you is change your part,
and sometimes they don't know the really fundamentals working of your vehicle.
Properly not always doing your vehicle properly, etc. So that is very important that these things happen. So once that is done and you satisfy yourself that you've checked all these things, you understand, before you start your ignition, click that seatbelt on. Put that seatbelt on. Seatbelt is for your safety. And a lot of persons might say, well, if I don't choose to wear seatbelt, it's on the individual itself. But at the end of the day, seatbelts have its importance in driving, and especially when you have to make sudden stops. Because as vehicle going at a speed and making a sudden stop, obviously physics involves it. You will move forward, jog forward. Some people get whiplash, especially if you have persons in the back seat. I also advise that persons in the back seat wear your seatbelt if it's necessary. But our laws require that only front seat passengers wear seats, to the driver and the front seat passenger.
As a driver, you should always encourage everyone to wear their seatbelt.
Especially, and what I want to advocate too, you see a lot of persons have children in vehicles, and they're just there in the back seat, and strap them in too. Because they can become projectile if you have to make a sudden stop, and they can end up in the front. We see last year we had a statistic with a child being involved with a fatal accident in the Grandlands area and so forth. So if you have car seats, use the car seats, strap them in, and make sure that they not doing what they want in the back, because they can also be a distraction if they're not properly tucked in.
What are some of the real concerns the traffic department have noticed in terms of drivers not adhering to the safety conditions out there?
We're having a lot of as I said, the worst case scenario, we have fatality and serious accidents, persons involved getting broken bones and so forth. And once persons injuries, you don't know how life-threatening injuries can be. Sometimes we play Russian roulette with our safety, and this is a bad thing. If the law requires you to, not just the law, for your safety to wear your seatbelt, wear the seatbelt, because at the end of the day, one wouldn't just say, well, I'm idle, let me just say, well, I'll wear the seatbelt today. No, it's not that. Safety was designed in relation to every aspect of the vehicle that when seatbelt was implemented, and persons need to take it seriously. What we're seeing also is that persons are distracted while using the road, and a lot of accidents or minor accidents and so forth are because of distractions and persons failing to comply with signs and so forth. Distractions, starting with the use of the mobile devices. We're still seeing a lot of persons using mobile devices while driving, in their air, in their hand, and so forth. What the law requires that you have your Bluetooth or hands-free device.
Yes.
So you have the mount set up to your dashboard or whatever part of your vehicle, so then you wouldn't have to. But still,
it comes around these days where your radios could be Bluetooth to your phone, could be Bluetooth to your radio, which make it easy, so you could drive and have your conversation without being distracted of having to have the phone in your ear.
And but even while driving and having a conversation is also a distraction.
Yes,
I must say that. But our law requires that if you have that, you would not be charged. But still, to avoid every form of distraction, I would still advise that you pull to the side in a safe place where you wouldn't cause any obstruction, and you take your phone call so that you would be you wouldn't be distracted. Because I always say driving requires a level of focus and attention.
So true.
And one thing that doesn't go as well with driving is multitasking. Trying to use your mobile device, have a conversation, even having a conversation with someone in your vehicle while driving is also
a form of distraction,
depending on the level of conversation that you're having. So even persons might say, well, it's not only cell phones, and I agree. Anything else that you do while driving becomes a distraction. Eating, drinking beverages, whatever it may be.
Even as a driver, you may feel you're competent enough. You can be distracted some way or the other. Some way or the other. Because sometimes the oncoming vehicle may not be thinking, well, you're having a conversation with someone and they run into you. You understand?
True. Because once you're distracted there, then you forget that you have to signal properly. So you see where signals comes in with one, leads to another. You won't be able to signal properly, whether by the indicators or using hand signals. So it takes away from your ability to actually focus on what is necessary while driving.
Yes.
So performing hand signals and even being able to focus and pay attention to those signs that are on the road. Yes, we may know that some of them are there, but at the end of the day, what if one was implemented a few hours before you travel on the road, or tell you that you need to divert, tell you that you need to no entry and so forth, and then you bypass those because you are distracted. So it's important to be focused on the road, and persons need to pay attention to signs and signals while driving.
So we spoke a wee bit about vehicle safety, that individuals, the drivers in particular, make sure that your vehicle is the normal operations of it is looked at before you leave. Your brakes, your oil, if you have to do so, if you have to check the water system, make sure you check that out.
Everything.
Make sure your seat belts are intact. Sometimes these things could dislodge for some reason. You have the night or so before, and then they slip you, and you may say, I'll check it in the morning, and for some reason you forget, and then you just jump into the vehicle and an issue occurs. Now, passenger safety, it's another concern, I am assuming, that the traffic department is having.
Yes.
In terms of pedestrians, how they use the roads and so forth. Tell us some about that.
Yes, we're seeing a number of reported accidents with pedestrians. So and sometimes not every accident with a pedestrian is the driver's fault. As we normally say, sometimes persons have the notion that anytime somebody there's a pedestrian related accident that the driver's at fault, and that is not true, and I want to state that on record. Most of the times pedestrians are the one responsible for those accidents because of their negligence of how they use the road network. They will dot into the traffic while traffic is moving, and they will try to cross in odd places. As I use the word term, playing Russian roulette, like in front of vehicles and so forth.
They have this bonks me now mentality. I mean, it's a bit of a plain talk, but they'll say, well, you bonks me now. You just want to cross the road while the oncoming vehicle is approaching. And
pedestrians are responsible for their safety. And remember, vehicles do malfunction. And I say that to say that the brake system can fail at any time if persons do not properly service their vehicles and so forth. But what I want to emphasize on how they use the road network, and I don't just want to come here and say that they're responsible, but I want to let them know the proper way or the correct way of using, crossing the road and so forth. Use the sidewalks once they are available, especially in our towns and urban areas where there are sidewalks. Once there's a sidewalk, use the sidewalk and walk safely. If you have to cross the road, I always say make sure that you cross in an open area where vehicles can see you. Especially our children, make sure that they cross the road safely. We want to teach them the right thing as adults.
Develop that bit of a habit in terms of knowing how to.
If they see us just running across or dashing out into the road, they will do it too and think that it's okay, because remember, they look up to us.
Yes.
But however, what we started at the traffic department is doing these road safety lectures and so forth in schools. We started at the primary school. We've done a number of the primary schools already, and we continue. One of the projects that we have for the traffic department in St. George's, all the primary schools, and then move to the secondary and even the tertiary, because we're seeing especially a misuse of the pedestrian crossing, especially in the area of Tantin. And there's a number of pedestrian crossings in that area. And if it is not used properly, then it can encourage traffic congestion as well.
A question I would like to ask. I mean, is there any law that governs how pedestrians are taught to use the nation's road?
Unfortunately, no. But it's something that we've looked into to try to make it into law, and so that pedestrians can be held liable as well as drivers for not using, because at the end of the day, what we see in the misuse and so forth can lead to, as I said, accidents and so on.
Yes.
And if these things can avoid it, and pedestrians can be held accountable, we definitely see a reduction in the way that we use it.
Proper use of the sidewalks and pedestrian crossing, the proper use of it.
And maybe you have to implement jaywalking.
Well, in some countries that particular law do exist.
Yes, I know it
do exist in some countries,
But unfortunately, we don't have it here. So I still want to encourage pedestrians that if you have to use a pedestrian crossing as you attempt, stop, look left, look right. Make sure that nothing is coming. Nothing is coming. You cross safely to the other side of the road. That goes for whether there is a pedestrian crossing or there's not. In the areas where there is not a pedestrian, I always say make sure that the area is clear so that drivers can see you from a distance, so that they can take the necessary action of braking and coming to the appropriate stop. So when they see you.
Speaking of pedestrian, we also relate to drivers. This also goes back to speaking to drivers. So you have to be a defensive driver as always.
Of course. If you know there is a pedestrian crossing in the area, you slow down and take all the necessary precautionary measures, as if somebody were there.
Even if somebody is not there, you should always practice it then.
Yes,
I see a pedestrian crossing, I will slow down.
Definitely.
You understand? As a driver, you will slow down and make sure no one can. There are options where individuals may just cross the street.
Just cross the street because they thinking that's a pedestrian crossing, that I could just step out at any given time, and which is not so. So then both pedestrians and drivers have a responsibility to make sure that we doesn't have statistics on pedestrian crossing, because at the end of the day, to have an accident as a driver on a pedestrian crossing, that adds insult to injury.
I understand that.
It may not be your fault, but still, you have a responsibility to slow down and make sure.
Exactly, because sometimes you may be approaching and an individual feels as a pedestrian, but I on the pedestrian cross, so I could cross.
That's why we always...
there's a way, of course, to do it. You make sure you make that eye contact with the driver and so forth.
Definitely. So you signal to the driver that you intend to stop, make sure that vehicle come to a stop before you as the pedestrian step out onto that pedestrian crossing.
All right.
Because sometimes, even we talk about the mobile device, but a lot of pedestrians are distracted by those devices as well, and
they are walking and using the mobile device.
Because a lot of the times I will be driving and a pedestrian will step out, and then they have the mobile device in your hand, and sometimes you have to engage your hand, and you say them sorry, and then at the end of the day,
if it's their phone, and something a bit of a concern too, folks with the Bluetooth devices sometimes in their ear listening to music. I from time to time see folks with headphones, Bluetooth devices, pedestrians walking.
Yes,
I think it's a bad practice.
A very, very bad practice, and some might be looking at videos and so forth, and they major distracted.
And you may not hear a vehicle approaching,
even if the vehicle
a horn has been honked at you,
siren coming, and
you're not hearing it because pedestrians sometimes have to pay attention to these things.
Definitely.
Especially when you're using the roadway. Make sure the levels are low. If you have to listen on headphone, some folks may want to just be in their own zone.
But play it at a moderate level that you can also be aware of your surroundings
at the same time. Great.
Yes. But I would advise that if you have to use the road network, especially in busy areas, that you remove the headphone.
Or turn it off entirely. Sometimes it being in your ear too is not always the best practice, because it could muffle the song, muffle your song and so forth. All right. So, folks, it's the traffic department with me this morning. Officer Troy Paul with me this morning. And we were talking, driver, pedestrian safety. We spoke about that. We talked about your vehicle safety. And we also, our last bit of conversation was pedestrian safety. Anything we want to say before we wrap up this morning?
Yes, I just want to urge persons as we head deep into the independence, because as of tomorrow, I think everything will be moving, will be fast approaching until the 7th, and even after the 7th of February there will be activities from the celebration committee. And I just want to urge persons, we know it's a celebration as we call it.
Yes.
Persons will be consuming alcohol, persons will have to drive and so forth.
We didn't encourage you. We didn't encourage the alcohol.
No, we not encourage. Well, at the end of the day,
folks will use it, but we don't make me encourage
that if you have to drink in terms of the driving, and that is what, and some persons may have a long distance to drive and so forth, that you watch your alcohol consumption. We have a legal limit of 70 micrograms, but even being under the legal limit, persons can still be impaired under the influence of driving under the influence of alcohol. So as I would always say, I would encourage persons that if you have to drive, please alcohol affects persons differently on any given day, in terms of for a lot of reasons, such as your body mass, your water intake, your diet, etc. So please be mindful of your alcohol consumption, because once you stopped and for reasonable suspicion, the alcohol in your breath, you can be subjected to a breathalyzer test. And as I say, once persons pass that limit of 70 micrograms of alcohol in 100 milliliters of breath, you can be arrested. You will be arrested, because it's a zero tolerance offense. Because what we do not want is the worst case scenario of persons, because most times when persons are intoxicated, those accidents most times be severe.
Yes.
And can result in fatality or fatality.
You know, it's like telling everyone whatever they be doing for the next couple of days going through to be moderate. Do it in moderation. Whatever you're going to be plan on doing. You want to have a good time, do it in moderation. Stay away from the violence and everything else that could occur. You understand?
It's our 50th anniversary, independence anniversary celebration. Let us be responsible. And that is part of being independent, being responsible as drivers, as pedestrians, for every aspect of it. We want the statistic to be at a minimal, and no statistic at all in relation to accidents and so forth. And that will be a plus for us at the traffic department, that we can see when the festive aspect of the celebration done, we can say that we're definitely independent as a people by the way how we carry ourselves. Because independence is supposed to be a celebration of moderation, something not like Carnival, what you expect for Carnival, what you expect for Christmas, independence supposed to be a celebration of love,
folks showing their patriotism and love for their country, and the love and patriotism for your country does not lead to you drinking alcohol and overindulging in everything, and be more responsible. Officer, I want to thank you once again for Paul. I want to thank you so much for sharing information this morning here on the Mid-Morning Buzz, and certainly I hope that the folks who are listening and viewing has absorbed information that we spoke about this morning in terms of how you make sure your vehicle is safe enough before you go on the nation's road. As a driver, a passenger, of course, acknowledge the various safety procedures that you need to before you drive along the nation's road. Pedestrians, you also, the urge for you to use our roads safely in terms of whatever you do.
Definitely.
All right. Officer Paul, thank you once again. Have a great day, sir, and all the best.
Yes.
Happy Independence in advance.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure being here and to sharing such information. I just want to say thank you on behalf of the Traffic Department and by extension the Royal Grenada Police Force. Have an enjoyable day all.
All right. Hey folks, that's it. We take a wrap for this edition of the Mid-Morning Buzz here on Classic Radio GBN TV. Join us again for another edition. That's where we say goodbye.